In January 2010, Kristen Howerton had 2 items on her agenda: run a half marathon and then head to Haiti to visit her soon-to-be adopted son. Shortly before the race, Kristen blogged that running that event was going to be among the best and the worst things that she'd ever done in her life. But little did she know she'd soon say the same thing about her Haiti trip.
We always knew that adoption would be a way that God would use to build our family. We were always committed to that and excited about building our family uniquely through adoption, as well as having pregnancies and biological children.
So the order of our family is that Jafta is 5. He was adopted first. And then a little bit later, we found out we were pregnant with India. And on the same day that India was born, Kenbe was born in Haiti. And we found out about Kenbe about 6 months later when he was 6 months old. During a visit when we went down to Haiti with Jafta and India, we met Kenbe and knew we wanted him to be in our family. And during the process, the 2.5-year process of adopting Kenbe, Karis came along.
And our heart has always been that adoption is really God's heart for kids, and that every child deserves a loving home, and every child needs a loving home.
In early 2010, I decided I would take a trip, but I took our baby daughter with us, so she and I flew down to Haiti for what was just really supposed to be a 4 or 5 day quick trip to visit, kind of check on the status of the adoption. And the second night I was there, the earthquake happened.
At 4:53 in the afternoon of January the 12th, a major earthquake hit the small island nation of Haiti. The impact of the 7.0 magnitude quake, the worst in the region in 200 years, was devastating.
When it happened, it was so confusing. It was so powerful that I thought we were being bombed. I thought the world was coming to an end. I really couldn't figure out what was going on, because the shaking was as if I was standing on a blanket and someone was trying to shake me off the blanket. We could hear screaming coming from the streets. We could see that houses had toppled along that street. This can't be true, because we're hearing stories of just people beginning to line bodies up on the street and so many people injured. And it was so horrific, it was just hard to believe that it could be real. We had no idea what was going on. I think the rest of the world knew more than we did, because CNN was playing for everyone else. We had nothing. And I remember the next morning, once an internet connection was established, the missionary family pulled up a picture of the palace that had been collapsed, and all of us, I think, just sighed this heavy sigh of, wow, this is really bad.
Hundreds of thousands either lost their lives or were injured. Millions remained displaced as they looked for family members in the middle of chaos. The government was crippled.
That the palace has collapsed. It's like the White House collapsing.
I remember getting the call that the earthquake had happened, and then listened to a voicemail of Kristen's that said that she was okay, but very scared. And the focus at that point just became, how do we get Kristen home? We know that she's safe. We know that there's these aftershocks still happening.
Being inside of the building was unsafe. And there were so many aftershocks that I would just be grabbing Karis and grabbing Kenbe and running out the door, and constantly aware anytime that you were indoors of where the door was and how quickly you could get out. I mean, it was a surreal experience where you're just literally feeling unsafe, and these aftershocks in the first 24 hours were coming every hour.
Myself and a number of friends on Facebook, a number of friends around the country, people from our church, Brook Harbor, were just praying for us. We're online all night trying to find ways to get emergency evacuation for you and Karis, and we didn't know what was going to happen with Kenbe, get you guys to safety. And it was this constant just fight of feeling like our hands were tied and have nothing but faith and nothing but a sense of, I hope they're okay, I pray they're okay, because there's nothing that I can do sitting here in California while my family's halfway around the world.
A couple days in, we made our way to the embassy. We had heard that the embassy was evacuating people out on military jets. We spent the night at the embassy, and then in the middle of the night, we had embassy personnel coming in telling us, okay, there's a plane here. And we were just corralled into SUVs, taken to the airport, and put on a huge military jet. We made our way to Pennsylvania, and then to Chicago, and then finally back home. So we had to say goodbye to Kenbe, had really no idea what was going to happen with him.
They're home safe in Costa Mesa, but 3-year-old Kenbe is thousands of miles away in a world of complete and utter destruction.
We've visited like 7 times now, and saying goodbye is something that you dread the whole time you're there, you know. And this was the worst.
Can't imagine. Well, Mark and Kristen Howerton are with us now to tell us the rest of the story. Mark and Kristen, thank you for joining us on the 700 Club.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Before we begin, Kristen, I want to mention that you write a blog called Rage Against the Minivan. What's the meaning behind that name?
You know, it's kind of twofold. I mean, for one, it's just a silly exploration of just some of the things that we find ourselves doing as moms that we never thought we would do. But in a way, you know, my blog is about exploring just kind of living beyond maybe what's expected and trying to find a bit more meaning in life. So it's a play on words with that as well.
Can I just ask you, before I talk with Mark, that day when you left, I mean, there has to be a part of you as a mom that says, I need to get my baby that I brought with me out of here and back home to safety. But what in the world was it like for you to walk away and have to leave one of your children? I mean, I know as an adoptive mom that long before the adoption process is final, you are the parent of that child. The child grabs your heart, lives in your heart, you love them, they belong to you, so to speak. What was it like to have to leave Kenbe behind with so much unknown?
You know, I think it was exactly like any mom would imagine. That's exactly how it felt, like leaving a child behind. It was extremely emotional, really stressful. You know, fortunately, he was in a really good orphanage taken care of by Heartline Ministries, which is a great organization in Haiti, and I felt just implicit trust with them that they were going to take care of him and the other kids in their care. So I knew that he was going to be taken care of as well as he could in Haiti. But at the same time, you didn't want to leave anybody behind in Haiti at that time. It was a scary place. So it was that was a dark couple of days for us when he was still in Haiti.
So Mark, your wife and your youngest daughter come home and you're all sitting, I'm sure, glued to the television set for days because every one of us was watching and just praying for Haiti, watching what was happening. Those aftershocks were horrific. And then you're watching the news with Diane Sawyer, and tell me about what you saw.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. It was such an amazing blessing, what we got to see on TV. We're watching the news, and Diane Sawyer shows up at an orphanage, and it happens to be our son's orphanage. And she's on the site where our son is staying, and she picks up our son Kenbe, and she's hugging our son Kenbe at the end of the shot. And so here we are sitting in California watching the news, glued to the TV, as you say, and we're seeing our son safely being held in the arms of Diane Sawyer, of all people. And to just think of the millions of orphans in Haiti, of the thousands of orphanages, she showed up at our orphanage, hugging our son. Amazing blessing.
There's like a message from the Lord saying, I've got this one. So how did Kenbe finally get out of Haiti?
Yeah. Well, actually, ironically, that unique coincidence, that unique thing that God did with having Diane Sawyer at that orphanage really catapulted us into the ability to be on the news, to do some personal campaigning to say, hey, let's try to get our son home. Let's try to petition the government to give him an exceptional visa, him and about 900 other Haitian orphans who were matched with an American family, to give them a visa called humanitarian parole and allow him to come home as a refugee after a national crisis like this. And through pretty rigorous petitioning, talking with our congressmen, doing different news shows and whatnot, they were able to do that. And 900 of these kids came home, and we got to get Kenbe home about 10 days after the earthquake.
Wow, amazing. Well, Kristen, there's the adoption and then there's the adaptation. You wrote about the challenges of adapting to your new family, even saying that at times you had to fake it. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, adopting a child who's not a newborn, you know, it's different. He had lived in an orphanage for 3 years and he'd never lived in a family. you know, and while you would think that orphans are sitting in orphanages pining away for a family, he was a little unsure at first if he really wanted a mom and dad, you know, who were going to be there to not only to care for him and nurture him, but to discipline and to guide him. That was really hard for him at first, and so we had a rocky transition, as I think many adoptive parents do, especially adoptive parents who are taking in, you know, slightly older kids who've been in an institutional environment. And so, I mean, I'm happy to report that a year later, he's very, very happy living in a family. But, you know, we had some adjusting to do, and you know, it was a big transition for him.
Well,
And for us, I would say.
Yeah.
And I want to mention that because recently on our Facebook page, we asked our viewers to send in their adoption questions. And one person said she's thinking about adoption, but she's hesitating because people told her that she wouldn't be able to really love an adopted child. What do you think about that, Mark?
Yeah, that is one of the miracles of God, is that there is no difference in the love that I have as a parent for my children, if it's my biological daughter or my adoptive son. There is no difference whatsoever. I think that's one of the unique ways that God has created us as parents, as humans, to say we can love our children as our children. And really, just to use the biblical metaphor, that it's the same aspect of God's complete adoption of us, and of us being completely enfolded in his family without qualifier, without hesitation.
It is an amazing reflection of God's love. Well, for those of you who might have a heart for adoption, if you'd like to know more about the process, more about what it means to become family, you might want to follow the Howertons. Check out their blog. It's called Rage Against the Minivan. Thank you so much, Mark, Kristen, Howerton. Your family's wonderful, and we thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Bless you.